what would it be like to actually live in the world of pre-crime? Like, it's like not
Yeah.
that we can't. And it's like this is what you have to think about. And it's like you getting punished for what you are thinking about, and you don't even know that you're going to, like, they say, oh, you're going to take XYZ action, but you're just thinking about something right now. You don't even know it's going to go down that route.
We don't have genetically modified drug den babies that we've kidnapped to look at the future for us, but we do have some interesting
Thank
parallels.
What were the clinical trials like for that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
That's the disturbing. Okay, well, actually,
Yeah, that's the disturbing part. Yeah.
to change gears a little bit, is I was thinking that without that plot line, I might advocate for pre-crime sticking around even at the end of the movie. Like, so, I was just thinking, to live in a world. Imagine a world with no murders. I mean, really think about it. Would you like? To play devil's advocate, it's like, would you want to live in a world with pre-crime? I mean, if it's just limited to murder, maybe. And I just like think about all those people who have lost their children, and like, so one thing I was thinking about is we are upset that pre-crime will put an innocent person in the halo, right? And that's terrible. But every murder, nearly every murder, punishes an innocent person for the actions of somebody else. And so I was there's a strong, like, the movie definitely condemns pre-crime, and I'm on that team overall philosophically. But I think it's just, I think most people should take a real hard look about, would you like to live in a world in which our law enforcement was so effective that they can stop any murders before they happen? Like, that's an amazing thing. It really is an amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's something that we would all want, but again, it's just the way that you get there. And that's all predicated on the fact that in a perfect world, that would work, but we're in a fallen world, therefore it cannot work. Which is kind of what this movie explored.
And it actually, it does seem like, so a big piece of John Anderton's story is he experienced the terror and tragedy of murder, and he gets locked in a world in which maybe I can solve this problem. And he's trapped by that idea. But finally, at the end of the movie, he needs to just accept the fact that his son is gone and that he can't do anything about the evil, and move on, and he's at peace with it. And but I just feel like with this, it's worth sitting for a moment thinking about how wonderful pre-crime would be, in spite of the fact of the Minority Report. Or for example, what this reminds me of is capital punishment, because I believe biblically capital punishment is permissible. But I think the strongest argument from, in particular, Christians who are against the death penalty is that our system produces false positives, where and we have put people to death who didn't actually do it. And now with the advancement of DNA evidence, you see a lot of people getting off for murders that they didn't commit. And like, that's a really serious thing where we should question that system, in spite of the facts that I think capital punishment is biblically permissible. And so, even though this movie is has fantastic premise, it immediately has application to things like our justice system and us putting to death people who might possibly, there's a beyond a reasonable doubt, but there's still a shred of doubt. And is that enough for us? It's
funny because where I went down with this, the road I went down was actually, I kind of feel like we're partway there with like cancel culture. So I mean, it's kind of a style of pre-crime. We judge people based on their political, religious opinions and cancel them, which means we basically destroy their career. We don't buy from them or support them, and people often actively, try to destroy their reputations, basically. And I was just thinking of, and there's no court or justice involved. That's just mob mentality, people doing this. And like the number one thing I thought of was like Johnny Depp and his whole thing with Amber Heard, and like he was he must be the guilty one because, she's said, me too, and, I was accused, but then it turns out she was actually, the abuser. And then like Gina Carano and J.K. Rowling gets a lot of hate
A lot of
for
hate.
her comments. Like people like you've seen videos of people burning their Harry Potter books because they can't stand her anymore. So I just, again, I feel like we're kind of there, and like people are already being tried for like hate speech and stuff like that, for things that they have an opinion about, and it's like, well, you can't say that,
Yeah, prejudice, prejudging people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm talking to a major, like a pastor of a really, really large church, and he says people are often really angry with what they think I might say or what I haven't said, as opposed to what I have said.
Yes,
and so that's a prejudgment.
Yep.
Or another parallel I thought from this movie is there's a popular abortion argument that was put forth by the book Freakonomics, and Freakonomics is interesting. They're just trying to make connections between things that are seemingly unrelated, but they suggested that legalizing abortion lowered the crime rates. There's a correlation. 20 years later, when a lot of the children of these distressed pregnant women would reach the age at which they are really troublemakers, but the crime rate lowered instead of increased at that time. And so they suggest that abortion is a type of pre-crime style reduction in the crime rate.
Yeah.
And you go, if we just, and it's easy to reply to that, but what kind of thoughts
you
do you
were
have?
talking about?
Yeah.
So there's been a funny meme that goes around, and it's atheists go, why doesn't God get rid of all the bad people? And it's in pictures of Noah's Ark, and they go, not like that.
Yeah.
And that's literally what it is. Like, of course, if there's no humans to murder each other, there's no murders.
Yeah.
Or less,
so, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
What's your point? What's your point?
Yeah.
It's like the Nordic countries eliminating Down syndrome from their society.
We cured it.
Yeah, we cured Down.
Like, no, you didn't.
It was like,
be like, I cured racial tension by destroying all of one race.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
that's how they used to do it back in the day. I was like,
and
we don't have to deal with racism if there's none of you.
Yeah. And another argument that I've heard, which is so sad and it sickens me every time, is if you're poor, you shouldn't have kids because then they're born into poverty, and it's worse to be born into poverty than to be born. Like,
and poverty is correlated with crime and all these things. So,
and it's like, it's worse to suffer than to be born, and you're like, what? It's just, again, if you think about it hard at all, like, you cannot come to that conclusion, but it's just ridiculous.
Well, just ultimately, the movie is about a pretty successful government audit, actually.
Yeah.
Which shows it's pure science fiction.
Pure science. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty right wing and stuff, and I prefer the Ghostbusters style where the government is Walter Peck. But really, this was a government criticizing its own super successful program and finding flaws, and they eventually shut it down. So, touche, government of 2054. I hope this kind of...
if only.
But the principle of this movie, I think, kind of operates on is a very American principle. Like Benjamin Franklin famously said, it's better that 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. So there's this idea of individual liberty as the ultimate political good. And I think that's one thing that pre-crime seems to really challenge. Because there's part of me that goes, is it though? I mean, really, if I could save 100 people who were about to be murdered, but actually throw one person in prison along with them, I might make that choice. Now, I'm just trying to be Satan's lawyer here before we dive into the plot.
No, it's true that's always one of those like hard questions that you have to wrestle with, where it's like, okay, I push this button and I save, 1 million people, but you have to kill 400. Yeah, and I'm sure
the trolley problems, right? Where they go, okay, well, if there's a trolley going down a track, 5 people on one track, 1 on the other, and the trolley's about to kill 5 people, do you pull the lever to kill the 1 instead of the 5? A lot of people go, oh, well, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then they go, well, how about this? There's 5 people who are about to be killed by a trolley. Do you push somebody in front of the trolley and it's going to derail the trolley? all of a sudden your intuitions
man.
start
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
And
harder.
that's why philosophy is great in those classes.
Yep.
It pushes the intuition, and this kind of movie does a really good job. I mean, that first scene where John Anderton is a hero. He's heroically stopping a murder, and then as soon as the guy's being put away, you think, oh, poor guy. He woke up that morning and he wanted to repair his marriage, stay home with his wife, and treat her to an afternoon out, but she would rather cheat. And then she does cheat. And then he comes home and he's heartbroken, and he has a fit of murderous, jealous rage. And now he's going to be locked away in prison forever, and his wife and her lover get to just continue doing what they're doing. And you just, it's a heart-sinking scene, but it communicates so much in that opening scene.
Yeah.
Makes you long for actual justice in the world, because what happened to the man was not justice. Because what he was going to do was revenge, so it wouldn't have been justice either.
No.
If he had been able to carry through it. But what happened to him was not justice, and the marriage was still broken up, and children were left fatherless, and all that. And again, it's not saying the murder would have been better, but it does make you long for a judge who is perfect in all of his judgment.